I'm going to show you how to make men commit to you, and it really all centers around one simple factor. But before I can explain that factor to you, I need to give you a little bit of context. Have you ever seen this? This is basically my theory on what makes men, or really anyone for that matter, commit in relationships. So you have 6 main factors: satisfaction, alternatives, fear of loss, scarcity, investment, and urgency. So the theory goes like this. Within every commitment decision that we as human beings make, these 6 factors continually crop up and are weighed against one another. Score high enough on the internal calculations and you get yourself a commitment. Score low enough and, well, we just won't talk about that. But here's the rub. Not all of these factors are created equally. In fact, there is one factor that puts all the others to shame: investment. But don't just take it from me. Carol E. Rusbolt, a renowned sociologist before passing away at the age of 57, had something really interesting to say about investment. She said the investment model of commitment is a predictive psychological theory that aims to explain why people remain in relationships. So according to Rusbolt, we can study which of the 6 factors I just listed seem to hold the most weight into why people stay in relationships, even when it benefits them not to. And it's here that investment, the number one commitment factor, truly begins to stand out. Now, consistently in my research to figure out which of these 6 factors reign supreme, I kept coming across this concept of a sunk cost fallacy. All right, so what the heck is this? Well, the theory posits that the more you have invested in a relationship, the more likely you are to stay in it because you don't want those investments to go to waste. So let's say you've invested a lot of time, financial resources, and intimacy into one specific relationship. You don't want all of that to go to waste. You don't want it all to be for nothing. So even if that person is scoring low on your commitment factors, they leave you unsatisfied, you constantly catch yourself thinking of other people, you aren't afraid of losing them. You get the idea. The sunk cost fallacy basically tells us that you'll stay in that unsatisfying relationship because of how much you have invested into it. But again, don't just take it from me. A 2018 study in current psychology conducted by researchers at the University of Minho in Portugal shed light on why people often remain in unsatisfying relationships. And the findings really pointed towards the sunk cost fallacy as the big reason for why. So basically, the study involved over 900 participants who were presented with scenarios of less than ideal relationships. When faced with the option to leave these fictional relationships, the responses indicated a tendency to stay when substantial investments of money and effort had been made. Now, what's wild about this is that these were fictional relationship questions. And despite that, people still said that they would still be willing to stay even when it benefited them not to. Fictional relationships, meaning it does not affect them personally, but it gets better. Researchers have literally found a link between the sunk cost fallacy and time. Like this paper by Anton D. Navarro. In his study, he wanted to see if the sunk cost effect, where people continue with something because they've already invested in it, also happens with time. So he did a lot of different experiments using questionnaires and found that people do indeed show a sunk time effect. Now, this means people are likely to continue doing something that they've spent a lot of time on, even if it might not be the best choice. And he tried all sorts of different situations, like changing the value of what they were doing, whether the decision affected just them or a group, or whether the time spent was enjoyable or not. And in all of these cases, the sunk time effect was still in place. But it gets even better. Navarro also said he did some experiments where people had to make decisions, not just answer questions. And these experiments show the same sunk time effect, but it gets even better. Navarro also found that when people felt personally responsible for the situation, they were more influenced by the sunk costs in their choices. And that brings us around to investment. This, in my opinion, is the single most important factor for getting pretty much anyone to commit to you. Now, investment comes in many forms: time, emotional effort, shared experiences, financial resources, shared goals and plans, personal sacrifices, intimacy and physical connection, shared beliefs and values, children and pets. Again, you get the idea. Now, according to science, the more you can get someone to invest into you, the better. It's truly the one thing that reigns supreme. But there's still something bugging me. Why is this a topic that I even have to discuss? Like, why is it that nowadays people are finding it so hard to commit to one another? So when planning out this video, I became a little obsessed with trying to understand why most men struggle to commit. And I ended up with a parable. This parable. In a village where the mountains kiss the sky, an old man known for his wisdom lived beside a field that bloomed with the seasons. One sunny morning, a young boy on the cusp of manhood approached him. The boy's heart was heavy with a question that had been tugging at his soul. "Grandfather, of all the people in our village, who should I choose to share my life with? How will I know they are the right one?" The old man, his face a map of all the years he had wandered the earth, smiled gently. "Come, walk with me," he said, leading the boy to the edge of the field, where the air was fragrant with the promise of summer. "See this field before you, brimming with flowers of every hue and form?" The old man gestured to the sprawling beauty. "I want you to walk from here to the other end. Pick the prettiest flower you see, but remember, you must choose it the first time you see it. You cannot pick it on your way back." Heart pounding with the thrill of the challenge, the boy nodded and set off. As he walked, his eyes were met with blossoms of dazzling reds, vibrant yellows, and deep blues. Each flower seemed to whisper his name, tempting him to reach out. Yet with each step, a voice inside him whispered, "Further on, there will be a better one." The sun traced its path across the sky as the boy reached the end of the field, his hands empty. Turning back, he saw the old man waiting, his eyes alight with curiosity. "Did the field not offer any beautiful flowers?" the old man asked. "There were many," the boy confessed, his head bowed in realization. "But I always thought there would be a better one further on, and now I return with nothing." The old man placed a hand on the boy's shoulder, turning him to face the field once more, now bathed in golden hues of sunset. "My child," he said, "life like this field is full of beauty and opportunities. But if we're always looking for something better, we might miss what's right in front of us. The secret is not finding the best, but to appreciate the beauty in the now, to recognize what suits us and cherish it." Here's the sad truth. Most men struggle to commit because they're always looking for the next best thing. Now, some of the best videos that I've ever done on this YouTube channel have been about avoidance. And one of the interesting traits that all avoidants have are these special deactivation strategies. Or as Amir Levine and Rachel S.F. Heller put it in their book Attached, a thought or behavior that is used to squelch intimacy. For the avoidant, no one is ever good enough. They'll string you along, flirt with others, focus on your small imperfections. It's funny, I once had a friend who was dating this girl, and constantly throughout the relationship, he would say that she was perfect in every single way. Made her feel good, right? But there's always just one thing that she always seemed to be lacking. At first, it was her teeth. They were crooked. So she was so self-conscious about this that she went out and got Invisalign braces. Eventually, the teeth were straight, and he would say, "You're perfect." And then he would move the goalpost. It was always something else that would be bugging him. "I don't like your hair that way. I don't like your friends. I don't like. Nothing was ever good enough. So one day I asked him, "Why are you doing this to this girl?" His answer, and I quote, "I'm not sure if she's the one. What if the one comes around the corner tomorrow?" Like that boy trying to pick the perfect flower in the field, he's always waiting around for the next best thing. So how does one actually get a person like this out of the next best thing mindset? Well, at the beginning of this video, I introduced you to this, and I basically gave this long speech about how investment was the most important commitment factor. Perhaps the greatest folly that you can make is simply by operating under the assumption that all you need to get a commitment from someone is to master the investment aspect of the commitment. Yes, investment is without a doubt the most important commitment factor, but it alone is not going to help secure a commitment from a man, or really anyone for that matter. Instead, what it can do for you is help you create momentum. Think of it like this. Every one of the commitment factors that you see here on your screen have a synergistic relationship. What impacts one negatively can impact the others negatively. What impacts one positively can, you guessed it, impact the others positively. So let's stay on that positive synergistic track for a moment. You spend a lot of your time, let's say, building investment with this person that you're interested in. You're texting every day, you talk on the phone for a good amount, they're starting to rely on you for emotional support. You get the picture. The result of all this investment work is that your person becomes more satisfied during their conversations with you. Now, this satisfaction helps you in a lot of different ways. Not only are your conversations lasting longer, but your person constantly thinks that you're one of a kind. This helps us with scarcity. All of a sudden, this person feels like they can only feel this way with you, which helps you with alternatives. They start thinking that there's no one out there better for them. Now, with no better alternative decision out there, they begin to actually debate a commitment with you in their head, but they're still not quite ready to commit yet. They're happy with the way things are currently. They don't want to do anything to mess that up. After all, the one could just be right around the corner. But something is missing. They don't really truly fear losing you, or really they don't even have an urgent reason to commit to you. Now, fear of loss and urgency sort of go hand in hand. These two factors are connected more than any of the other four factors that I've just mentioned. Why? Simply put, by creating a fear of loss or urgency, you can successfully create the adjacent factor. And that's really what we're looking to do. Imagine for a moment that more than anything in the world, you want your person to commit to you, but they're just not doing it. So you decide that you're going to move on with your life. You start going on dates with other people. Maybe you start posting a picture of the date on Instagram. Nothing in your face about it, but enough to insinuate that you're going on dates. Subtle hints like the arm of your date as you take a picture in the restaurant. Seeing you with another guy, or at least imagining you with another guy, is enough to create this fear of loss. Oh my gosh, they're not waiting around for me. Did I make a mistake not locking them down? Were they my next best thing? Now, these are the type of thoughts that they're going to be having in their head. And if they go long enough, they begin to feel this urgency. Well, what happens if the person they're on a date with locks them down? Will I always regret it? Now, getting a commitment from someone is a lot like having a domino effect occur. Investment leads to satisfaction. Satisfaction leads to scarcity. Scarcity leads to alternatives. Alternatives to fear of loss. And fear of loss to urgency. And if you do all 6 of these things, that's when you tend to start seeing commitments occur.